everyone, it's Miss Cary and Sugarfoot, and we're here to take you through Module 1, and I'm going to give an instructor lecture along with a PowerPoint. So let's get started. Module 1, Navigating the Course and Introduction to Jazz. From Introduction to Jazz by Dr. Jason DeCristofaro. Understanding Jazz. Now that you've looked around the course and know your way around, you might be thinking, what is jazz? Well, there are some different things we need to talk about first before we get to the nuts and bolts of that question. Now, every student is different. Some of you may have experience with jazz as a musician or a listener, or just someone who's heard it and thinks, I like that. Maybe a historian that likes to learn about history. Maybe you know nothing at all about jazz. Regardless of your background, I think you will enjoy the course and find it both fun and informative. When studying music, it is important to observe from a variety of perspectives. For the sake of this course, we will be looking at jazz music through the following lenses. The musical lens. Understanding how music is constructed adds a whole new level of appreciation for the listener. Throughout the course, we will be learning musical terminology to help us develop a collective language for both understanding and discussing the music we hear in the course. In each module, there is a glossary containing musical terms and other terms that is designed to increase your musical jargon. You will become an active listener, someone who knows what to listen for in a piece of music, including form, melody, harmony, rhythm, style, and instruments. If you have no background in music, don't worry. The terms will help you learn how to communicate about it. And if you have questions, just email me. Now, the next lens is the social lens. Music is as much a social experience as it is an art form. Music is experienced both individually and collectively in different social settings. Throughout the course, we will observe how jazz has evolved based on the social surroundings in which it was performed, how people interact with the music as audience members, performers, or listeners can also have an impact on how the music is perceived. And thirdly, the cultural lens. Music is often linked to other elements of culture, including dance, visual art, literature, film, theater, sports, clothing, and food. It is important to recognize the symbiotic relationship between music and other cultural elements. Music both influences and is influenced by all aspects of culture. Musicologists, who are scholars of music, consider these three lenses when studying music. Now, there are a few more important points to consider about jazz. Jazz is a diverse style of music. As a larger genre, which is another word for musical style, Jazz can be subdivided into several smaller categories, which are referred to as subgenres. These include, but are not limited to, styles maybe you have heard before, such as New Orleans jazz, swing, bebop, and jazz fusion. Now on the slide, I've put the picture of the jazz tree. At the bottom are the roots of jazz and the earliest jazz genres, and then it grows up, and at the top is modern jazz. And you can get an idea just how dense the tree is because of how many subgenres there are. And if you'd like to see a list of the subgenres, visit Wikipedia and look up list of subgenres of jazz, and you can see all the different types of jazz. In order for a type of music to be considered jazz, one thing that it has to have is improvisation. Improvisation is the artistic act of creating something spontaneously, and it's a foundational element of all jazz music. Week one's discussion forum has a video where Dr. Billy Taylor, a prominent jazz pianist and educator, discusses how jazz musicians undergo the process of improvisation. So here's a screenshot of the video, and you can find that in discussion forum 1. Repertoire and Jam Sessions. There's a collective repertoire or body of work that jazz musicians are familiar with. For this reason, it is not uncommon for jazz musicians who have never met before to know the same songs. At jam sessions, which are informal social settings where jazz musicians congregate to collectively play and develop new musical ideas, they will throw out tunes, hopefully, that everybody knows so they can have fun. Here's a picture of a jam session. Musicians just enjoying playing songs together and practicing together. If you're interested in what the repertoire looks like, visit Wikipedia and look at the list of jazz standards. Now, it's hard to learn every jazz song. I don't know if people have done it or not, but usually you like a certain subgenre of jazz and you learn that. And that's the jam sessions that you go to. Jazz is multicultural. Jazz is a multicultural genre of music deriving its various musical components from African, African American, European, European American, and Latin American sources. Jazz is adaptive, assimilating current musical and cultural trends. Since the earliest days of jazz, the musicians have not been afraid to take on contemporary elements of culture and music. Jazz continues to assimilate elements of older styles, incorporating everything from hip-hop to country into its sound. The blues is part of jazz. The blues is a genre of music that we will study in Module 2. but it plays a large role in the melodic and harmonic language of jazz. The blues comes from the country and shares the same origins that jazz does. And the jazz was a more urban style. There are different kinds of blues. This is a picture of Robert Johnson. He was a famous guitarist and singer who played the blues in the 1930s. But even earlier before that, there was a different style of blues that was famous called the classic blues. And that was usually women singing blues songs with a pianist. And they used to wear fancy formal evening gowns. And they would sing a classic blues number at the end of the show. Jazz is based on certain rhythmic concepts, which we will study throughout the semester. These are rooted in West African drumming and dancing traditions. Jazz has form. Form is the logical ordering of when events occur in a musical work. It is integral to jazz and all music. The form is often organized according to the melody. A standard jazz form is A-A-B-A, where the A melody is unique from the B melody. Here's an example. Somewhere over the rainbow. The A melody is somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. There's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Can you repeat that? That would be the second A, A. The B part is someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. That's the B part, and then round it out with another A. Somewhere. I'll spare you the rest of the A part. But that's what form means. So A-A-B-A. The elements of music. There are various elements of all music which allow the listener to make educated observations or analysis about what they hear. Understanding the following elements and the role they play in a musical work gives us greater understanding of how the music we hear is structured. Let's look at melody. Melody is a logical sequence of individual pitches which produces a musical idea. Pitches are specific frequencies which exist on a spectrum of low to high. So if you pick one spot on that spectrum of low to high and hold it, doo, that's a pitch. You can see these pitches laid out in the form of a piano, with pitches going from low to high, going from left to right. Now I am going to play some pitches on the piano, starting at the lower notes and going up just using the white keys. So melodies usually follow along a line, up and down. Sometimes they skip around. But it's still a melody, and it usually goes in one direction or another. It can change back and forth rapidly. So that's just an example of how melodies work. Another important element of music is rhythm. Rhythm is a recurring pattern of various durations which organizes the flow and movement of a musical idea. So rhythm is a function of time and how long the sounds last or how long the silences last. Rhythm is often organized into meter or a set number of beats in a grouping in which rhythms occur. For example, a group of 4 meter is called 4/4. And the grouping sounds like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Subdivision of these beats can occur in multiple ways. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And that's just 2 examples. Harmony is another element of music. Harmony is the combination of 2 or more pitches simultaneously, often used to support the melody. A common example is how a chord, a combination of 3 or more notes, can be strummed on a guitar to support a singer. So here is a picture of Ella Fitzgerald, and she's singing a song with only guitar accompaniment. Timbre is another element of music, and a more common word for timbre is tone. This refers to the type of sound. What is creating the sound? A flute, for example, has a very different timbre than a drum. When we look at instrumentation, we are considering what instruments are producing the sounds we hear. Now, in the class, you will need to be able to identify the instruments by what they look like and what they sound like. So timbre is something I want you to think about. A flute will have a metallic sound and a breathy sound. Let's look at this picture. Across the top, we've got 3 different saxophones. From the left, the bari sax, the biggest one, then the tenor sax, and then the alto sax. Each one's a little bit higher. But what gives it away that it's a saxophone is the reedy sound, like you're blowing through a buzzy reed. Now, another reed instrument in jazz is the next one beside the saxophones, the clarinet, but it's much higher. There's the tuba. They used that in early jazz because it was louder than the bass going down to the bottom row there. the big stand-up bass, they used that after they learned how to amplify it with a microphone, and then the bass became popular. In the middle, the trombone with the long slide and a circular mouthpiece. Next to that, the trumpet, also with the circular mouthpiece. At the bottom, the drum set. And last but not least, the guitar. So brush up on your instrument listening skills and think about how each instrument has its own sound, and that is called timbre. The next element of music is dynamics. In music, dynamics refers to amplitude, or how loud or soft something is in volume. In music, there are many shades of dynamics, just like there are many different subtle shades on a painter's canvas. Dynamics are not simply soft or loud, but constitute a wide spectrum of possible volume levels. Articulation is an element of music. This is how you set the note out. Do you use a sharp attack? Do you slide into it? The inflection, attack, and/or sustain of a note. Music, like speech, has various levels of articulation. A person may say something very short and aggressively, or with a long, sustained drawl. Similarly, there are various ways in which a musician might articulate a note, including staccato, which are short notes like do, 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 do. Legato, no space between notes. Do, 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 do. And slurred, where one note literally slurs to the next note. Do. No articulation. So these pictures are here. There is King Joe Oliver playing the trumpet. And with the trumpet, you articulate using your tongue. You have the air behind it. And often you think ta, ta, ta when you're learning. So that is one method of articulation. The trombone, which is the other picture with Kid Ory. Trombones can slide all the way down to the note. Trumpets have a harder time sliding, but a trombone, because of that slide, you can do long slurs. And that's it for Module 1. I'm going to read through the glossary of terms just to help get them in your head. Active listener. Listening with purpose so as to focus on specific elements. Articulation. The inflection, attack, and/or sustain of a note. Assimilate. To fully take in and incorporate cultural ideas. Chord. 3 or more notes played simultaneously. Dynamics. Refers to amplitude, or how loud or soft something is. Volume. Form. Logical ordering of when events occur in a musical work. For example, when the A section is, B section, etc. Genre, a musical style. Harmony, the combination of two or more pitches simultaneously, often used to support the melody. Improvisation, the artistic act of creating something spontaneously. Instrumentation, the instruments used to produce the sounds the listener hears. Jam session, informal social settings where jazz musicians congregate to collectively play and develop new musical ideas. Legato, in a smooth and connected fashion. Melody, a logical sequence of individual pitches which produces a musical idea. Meter, a set number of principal beats in which rhythms are set to occur. For example, 4/4 meter establishes 4 principal beats per measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then a new measure starts immediately thereafter, also with 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Multicultural, containing elements of various cultures. Musicologist or music scholar, pitch, an accurately measured or quantified representation of a specific frequency. For example, middle C on the piano is always the same pitch. Repertoire, a body of work in music. Rhythm, a recurring pattern of various durations, which organizes the flow and movement of a musical idea. Subgenre, a subcategory of a musical style related to the overarching larger musical style. For example, heavy metal would be a subgenre of rock. Staccato, short articulation, symbiotic, refers to an interdependent relationship. Timbre, the type of sound. Flute versus a drum. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here again real soon. And I hope you enjoyed this instructor lecture and PowerPoint. Happy listening.